Hello, adventurers! I am super excited to tell you about the trip we took to Acadia National Park. This incredible park is located on the coast of Maine on Mount Desert Island. A small portion of the park is located on the Schoodic Peninsula to the east, but all our Acadia adventures in this video took place on the main island.
Acadia is rugged, mystic, and enchanting any time of year, but there was something truly magical about visiting in the fall. Fall is my favorite season, so I may be a bit biased, but I mean, come on. Forests of gold, red, and orange surrounded us from the minute we walked out of the airport. Acadia only enhanced that natural beauty with the peace and solitude it provided. Maine in the fall is a must visit for anyone that's crazy about fall like me.
Temperatures ranged from the 30s to 50s, and the weather was rainy or cloudy just about every day we were there, except for the very last day. Rain jackets, puffers, and beanies were much needed for the trip, and we basically lived in flannels the entire time. Our adventures began in Portland, Maine. Portland is a quaint coastal town full of culture, natural beauty, and delicious seafood. Our first stop was High Roller Lobster Co. to get some lobster. It was so good. After our meal, we took a quick walk around the city center before hitting the road to our Airbnb in Ellsworth. It was about a 2.5-hour drive.
The next morning, we drove to Bar Harbor to rent bikes and explore the famous carriage roads in the park. Bar Harbor is like the main town and hub for anything you need while visiting the park. There are some other towns on the southern or western sides of the island, but they are farther away and don't offer quite as much as Bar Harbor. We rented our bikes at Bar Harbor Bicycle Shop. The shop is 1.5 miles from the carriage roads in Acadia, so we didn't have to rent a rack to transport the bikes. We just hopped on and got started. We got to the entrance of the carriage roads after some strenuous uphill biking through the neighborhood streets and awed and wondered at the views on these roads.
There are 45 miles of carriage roads in the national park that weave around the mountains and valleys of Acadia. John D. Rockefeller and his family wanted to travel on motor-free roads with their horses and carriages on the island, so they built these protected roads and later gifted them to the National Park Service. They still protect them today by only allowing pedestrians, cyclists, and horses on these roads. We took the carriage roads to a small loop around Eagle Lake that was about 6 miles long. This was a wonderful trail to take because not only were you surrounded by the autumn beauty, but you also got to see a large body of water through the trees, which only added to the scenic views.
Towards the end of the loop, we stepped off the trail to stop and have a quick picnic lunch on a babbling brook covered by a canopy of yellow-orange leaves. After returning the bikes, we explored the town of Bar Harbor and drove up the beginning of the scenic byway in the national park to visit the visitor center and ask some questions to help us plan out our adventures for the next day. We also grabbed a pint and some food at the Atlantic Brewing Company. Highly recommend the blueberry ale and cider. Blueberry is a big thing in Maine.
The second day, we had breakfast at a little diner called Jordan's Restaurant in Bar Harbor. Their blueberry syrup was to die for, and everything else was pretty good too. It was great fuel for a long day of driving and exploring along the scenic byway of Acadia National Park. Park Loop Road is a 27-mile scenic drive that connects Acadia's lakes, mountains, and shorelines.
Our first stop was Cadillac Mountain, which actually goes the opposite direction down the loop road. It was completely empty that day because of the misty, cloudy weather. We then drove further down the road and stopped at Jordan Pond House to see Jordan Pond and get an order of popovers. Even on a cloudy day, Jordan Pond was a lovely sight with its colorful hills and beautiful reflections in the still water.
At this point, we had to turn around because the park loop became a one-way. This led us to another stop, Bubble Rock. The Bubbles Divide Trail is a short 2-mile hike, but the views are breathtaking. At the overlook, we were able to see the other side of Jordan Pond.
We drove back around to the east side of the loop road to continue on the scenic byway, stopping to take pictures and admire the view of the Atlantic coast. Next was a stop at Sand Beach. It was windy and cold that day, but watching the waves toss about and splash magnificently against the rugged rocks on the shoreline was mesmerizing.
Further down the road was the famous and iconic Thunder Hole of Acadia National Park. Along the coast, a small inlet has been carved out of the rocks. About an hour before high tide, the waves roll in and come crashing into the crevice created by erosion and splash up several feet high. This crashing and splashing makes a loud and thunderous sound that can be heard from the road above. After the sights and sound of Thunder Hole, We returned to the loop road to see the next site, which was Otter Point. Otter Point consists of a large rocky coastline that gives a great view of the sea. Waves crash and the ocean mists as you look out into the deep dark sea.
Once we left Otter Point, we headed north up the road to hop over to the southeast tip of the island. There you will find the only lighthouse in the national park, Bass Harbor Head Light. We sat on the rocks by the lighthouse as the sun began to set and just soaked it all in. There was something majestic and mystical about the lighthouse that just drew you in. The waves, the rocks, the never-ending ocean all contributed to the magic of Acadia. Done for the day, we went in search of lobster and found a tiny little family-owned gem on the way back up the island. Charlotte's Lobster Pound was just what we needed. A hot buttered lobster roll and blueberry pie a la mode ended our perfect day of travel around the park.
Our third day in Acadia was the only sunny day we had. It was a Sunday and the weather could not have been more beautiful. We decided this would be the day to go to the top of Cadillac Mountain and see the sunrise. But so did the rest of Maine. We hadn't seen many people in or around the park, so we had no idea what to expect that morning on our way up the mountain. The parking situation was apocalyptic, to say the least. We ended up parking about a mile down, just on the side of the road, and walking up so we wouldn't miss the sunrise. Was it worth it? Heck yeah. It was gorgeous up there. Freezing, but gorgeous. Acadia is working on a parking reservation system beginning the summer of 2021, so things will already be better for the future.
We left the mountain and headed down the windy, sunlit autumn roads of Acadia, seeing some wildlife along the way and soaking up the views. We parked and headed off for the Beehive Trail, one of our absolute favorite trails we've ever done, and a perfect day for it.
The Beehive Trail is an exposed cliff, iron rung hike. It's not for the faint of heart or for those with a fear of heights. Right off the bat, you start climbing up rocks and ascending up the cliff to get to the top of the trail. You get an amazing view of the valley below and the colors of the trees as you stop to catch your breath.
When you finally climb all the rungs and scramble up to the top, you are rewarded with a magnificent view of Sand Beach and the sun shining blindingly across the sea. Follow the Beehive Trail down to the bowl for some more beautiful scenery, and then turn back to complete the loop back to the end of the trail. As you make the return hike, look up because you are going to love the quiet, peaceful, breathtaking forest with its shimmering golden leaves.
We were so sad to leave Acadia, but the last day was a different kind of adventure. We took a road trip back to Portland that was definitely, well, more the scenic route. We stopped at Johnston's Orchard and picked some apples. Then we went to Owl's Headlight and Doubling Point Lighthouse, traveling along the coast of Maine and taking our time. Our last stop was Rocky Ridge Orchard, where we had apple donuts, apple crumble, and strange blueberry milk. It was quite the tour of rural Maine, and we thoroughly enjoyed it.
Honestly, before I saw $29 round-trip tickets to Newark and connecting flights to Portland, I hadn't really had Acadia at the top of my list of places to visit. Then, the more research we did, the more we wanted to go. Move Acadia to the top of your list, especially if you can get there in October. You won't regret it. We hope you enjoyed this journey with us and you feel inspired to visit this national park or any national park sometime soon. The more we visit them, the more we fall in love.
Hey, thanks for clicking on this video. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or find us on Instagram to come with us on our next adventure. Thanks again for watching. Bye for now, y'all.